Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is an interview with Mrs. Budtz-Olsen for the Griffith University Jubilee History, taped at Brisbane on the 28th of February 1996 with Dr. Quirk. I was just asking Mrs. Budtz-Olsen to carry on as you started and tell us how you became involved in Griffith and take it from there, and so maybe just chat about it, if that's okay.
Yes. I was asked by the Minister of Education to sit on a committee which wanted to establish this new university. I went to the first meeting and was appalled to see that I was the only woman, and realised then, of course, that I was going to be the second woman. Which is a new experience, I must say.
I can imagine. With your background, you were running women's college at the time.
I listened in to the discussions and realised that if I was going to make any contribution, it could only be in two fields: to do with students, the student union aspect of it, and student housing. So I sat and listened to meetings discussing the establishment of the university for months. And of course, never opened my mouth. But I couldn't, because there were subjects about which I had nothing to offer. But I had some private reservations as time went on. I felt that they were so keen to break new ground that they were getting into rather dangerous edges, as it were, of university. The day they came round to academic dress, I really distressed myself, because John Willett brought in a model of what he thought would be suitable, and before I could realise what I was saying, I said, "Good God, Gilbert and Sullivan." Well, there was a stunned silence, of course, but they did modify it less stupid, theatrical. And in a way, I thought to myself, this is symbolic of the American small university. It's very unimportant academically, but it addresses graduates very rapidly. I'm letting my hair down, you realise.
I appreciate it.
Yes. And I think perhaps these are stories you might not use, but...
no, that's fine.
But give me off my chest.
Well, I think it's important to get as much of every perspective as possible.
Exactly. When it came to student affairs, then I really felt that I had a real contribution to make, because not only was I principal at Women's College, but I had been the Senate representative on the Students' Union House Committee for something like 10, 15 years. Oh no, not 15 then, but at least 10 years. So, and one of the things that I insisted upon was that the Students' Union at Griffith should not be in control of catering, because this was a continuous headache at Queensland. Students do not have time to be bothered with all these things, and presidents only have what's less than a year in office, and of course they all want to change the world, and there just isn't time, and besides there's too much money entailed. So they got that excluded from their powers, and it means that they've had a pretty peaceful run.
Yeah.
The question of student housing vaguely came up, but there was no money at that stage for student housing. So we played around with ideas, but there was nothing concrete. And I realised that it would be years before they got student housing. and I felt about there's my purpose. The woman on the council. So I resigned after the first graduation ceremony. And I felt my real work was at Griffith University. I had by that time been made chairman of the Building and Grounds Committee, so there was quite a lot of work to keep me busy there. However, I continued to be interested, and when I heard, and I did hear this before I resigned, that there was some talk that the university would be given the housing which was going to be used for the games. And I asked then, will we be able to discuss the type of accommodation? No, they were going to put up these rooms for athletes. There was no consideration about student wants and so forth. And I was pretty fed up about that. But I understood that it was a gift to get all this housing for virtually nothing. Of course. So, but it was a great pity that the university would have to live with those unsuitable residences.
And they have been unsuitable, I guess.
Well, I consider that as I've talked to students who've lived there.
Yes.
My granddaughter has visited there when she was a student. And they're pretty fed up. Whereas women's college, I think in the end, we have just about the ideal accommodation. So I was able to compare which could run up digs. They didn't want the collegiate idea at Griffith, and I think that's a mistake too. Because the ability to be in the university and yet be out of it, separate from it, and have the support of tutors and so forth within your college and the college community, that's very enriching. And I've denied students at Griffith that.
The alternative that they seem to be talking about there was personal tutoring within the small group being teaching. But that seems to have disappeared now. So generally speaking, they started off with what might have been an alternative to the collegiate system, but now have nothing. Would that be a comment that you would?
I think it's tragic.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely tragic because you can't quantify the amount of influence that a collegiate environment gives.
Yeah.
But it's very real. I went through a collegiate system too, and I know. And you sit around the fire at night talking, solving the solution problems of the world.
Yes,
you don't have that. In fact, my granddaughter was very scared. She said, all the men there think about sex, and there's no peace anywhere. So I thought it's very possible.
Yes. That's interesting. When was your granddaughter there?
She wasn't a student there.
No, but
she visited.
Yes.
Let me see, she's been in England for 3 years. About 5 or 6 years ago.
Right. So what I'm getting at there is that in the very early days of Griffith, there appeared to have been an enormous amount of radical intellectual discussion and fixing the world. That seems to have disappeared by the time of it.
That I don't know. I haven't had any contact lately.
Right. Yeah.
But you see, that's the part that I think is important. Students must question, they must protest, they must challenge.
Yes.
But they also must sit down quietly and think. And we get all the protest and the challenge, but we don't get the quiet thinking and development.
Yes, I must confess that my instincts lie with the way you discuss it too. So,
well, I'm critical. I was critical from the beginning because I felt that if you're going to establish a university, you should have a major academic to lead the discussion. Now, Ted Bray is a first-class administrator. He's extremely well informed. He's energetic. But he hasn't had that advantage of an academic training. And that I felt was a pity, because here he's given a task and he was going to do it to the best of his ability. And he drove. He worked damn hard. But until Willett came, there was no sort of, I don't know how to describe it. I have a suspicion that Presley, Professor Presley, had the same feeling as I had. We never discussed it because I felt he was loyal. Yes. But I strongly suspect that he felt about it. That perhaps we came from the old school, and here with innovation we objected. I don't object to innovation, but I think you can get into deep water if you're not careful. Yes. And I think Griffith has had to fight against a certain prejudice from the older universities, but they're making good. They have an uphill battle as far as systems go.
How much of that was creative?
You said it.
I did, yes. But it seems to me extremely relevant. I suppose that the question would really be, how necessary was it for the university to be so radical in comparison to the traditional universities? Do I detect that you're suggesting that they could have taken some of the things out of the traditional universities and still have done something to cure the perceptions that what was wrong with them?
Yes, I just felt that they were so keen to be new.
Yes.
That they sacrificed. I also felt that this seeking for new faculties or new approaches doesn't necessarily mean the ones they chose were good.
Yes.
I really don't know enough about it, but these are just feelings that I have. I think when certain traditions have lasted for hundreds of years, they can't be too bad. You don't want to throw them all over.
No, you don't want to throw the baby out of the bathwater. It could well be that collegiate ethos is one of the things that didn't necessarily need to be thrown out.
No, not at all.
Just yesterday, I spoke with Pat Node. Remember Pat Node? And she made a comment, and it's not a confidential comment, I'm quite at liberty to talk to you about this. She felt that one of the problems that they had, from her understanding of it as an administrator, was that they had so many darn professors. They were so keen to avoid the God professor syndrome that they had professors sitting around getting paid twice as much as anybody else for doing very little.
I didn't realize that.
So she was saying. But because of this, they just had the same teaching load as everybody else. They didn't have an administration load. And of course, as the current Vice Chancellor, when he came along, wanted to know where's the professorial board, and there wasn't any such thing. So on the basis that there were a lot of professorial talent hired over the early years, and it doesn't appear to have been utilized.
Yes, well, she's had contact later than I have.
Yeah. But you're not conscious of that.
No, no.
What about how did you feel about the way of selecting students? There was very little in the way of prerequisites, and mature age students were being selected also on an interview basis. How do you feel about both of those?
Well, I don't know. Because students are selected, have been on the interview basis. They haven't had, well, of course, they've had to have academic qualifications. But it's been largely on interview.
Yes. Were you in favour of opening up the university the way they were planning to do it to people who didn't have access through the normal channels? Yeah.
Yes, I remember. Actually, I think I wrote an article on it, which is published in Interim about that. I think it's so long back, wasn't it?
That's okay. No problem.
But I wasn't very enthusiastic about that.
Right.
You see, there was this talk of admitting Aborigines, and they wanted to admit them without any qualifications at all, or even minimal qualifications. And I just thought that was wrong. It wasn't the place of the university to do that. The education department had to make provisions for it. But the university's got to keep up with their truth.
And that, of course, applies to other students.
Oh, yes.
Any students.
Yes. No, you know, if people get things too easy, they don't value it. And I just felt the whole attitude to the university would be lowered. Its standing in the youth community and in the academic community would be lowered.
Do you think that the university has moved back to a more traditional type of university?
Jolly good too.
Yes.
Traditionalist.
Have they maintained any of those sort of early, more radical visions?
Well, I really haven't had enough close contact. I don't know. I've been to functions and that sort of thing. It's very different.
Yes.
No, I really don't.
When do you think the change to bring it into line, in some ways anyway, with more traditional universities came about?
Well, I think towards the end of Willard's time. But Willard hasn't made any impression on me at all. I've seen him quite often. In fact, I think he's a sick man. And I was very interested to see, now this is,
That's okay.
I was very interested to see in one of the university papers, one of the publications, a very laudatory article by the Chancellor about Willard. And I felt, why are they showing him up like this? What's wrong?
Yeah.
And then I had occasion to, we gave the university an Singapore, and I had occasion to go and see Webb about it when we thought of giving it to him. And he was a sick man. There was something wrong with him. Yes. And he didn't get up. And he seemed to not to understand what I was talking about. I had left, and it was shortly after this that there was this article. I thought, as he in Cody has terminal cancer or something, what's wrong?
Well, I'll send that over, because...
Oh, I can go on with it.
We were in the Forbes Smith Building, the history department.
Mm.
Oh, there is after that red brick place ferociously.
You know, when I was on building ground, we developed a Bible about building and future plans. We had it illustrated and so forth, and there were certain laws. One was no building in the Great Court. 2, no buildings on top of the buildings round the Great Court. No more red brick, and so on. Because we had the anatomy building to look at. And although Cyril's building down the bottom there got a prize, it doesn't belong in completion. But I don't think that the incoming chairman ever saw our Bible. I'm sure it's put away on the shelf and forgotten. Judging by the subsequent building and the excrescences on top of the Great Court building.
Yeah.
I look at some of them, they were going to be there for a year. We gave them permission for a quick experiment.
Yeah.
That's for 20 years.
The Mickey building.
They made a good job of the law library though. That was an improvement.
Yes.
Because you don't see it over the top.
No, that's very true. In fact, now that you think about it, I knew it was there, and I remember the disruption when they were building it.
Mm.
But to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't have realised it was finished because one can't notice it.
No. Mm. But I don't like your new building, and I think the offices down there are pretty little holes. Be awfully hot from you.
Well,
you can't get it breathe through.
You can't. When I was there, mainly I was a postgrad and a student, and we used to go out. They had 2 little balconies, and we used to go out and get a breeze on the balcony because the offices were dreadful. The senior staff, the senior academic staff, could have air conditioning in their office, but the rest of us had to.
It's a pity in Queensland, where you really only need air conditioning for a few months of the year, to build structures where you have to have it for 12 months of the year.
Getting back to Griffith on that subject, Griffith's air conditioning broke down just after Christmas. Do you recall that dreadful?
Terrible.
Oh, really, very, very hot and very humid as well. And it was absolutely appalling there. Even I had to go up to the Vice Chancellor's, and people I had been seeing saying, I bet the Vice Chancellor's office is all right, but even up there, it was appalling. And the reason was that nothing was designed for it not to be air conditioned. You couldn't open windows, you couldn't get roofers, you couldn't touch the breeze. Dreadful. Really dreadful.
Mm.
How would you describe the early philosophy of the universe?
We must be different.
Yeah.
That hits me, and it appalls me, because I don't think that should be the philosophy. You can have some difference, but you can't just wipe the past and decide to be different from the beginning.
Indeed. What things do you think that they might have done differently and needed maybe to be addressed in comparison to more traditional universities?
That's a big one, I don't know. Well, in the planning, I felt that Ted Brown had a committee, people with different expertise. I felt that he could have said, now, we don't have an art school. You, the people, sit and think about it, bring it back to us, but you do the work. We're going to have an environment, Australian environment or East Asian environment, whatever you want. But you people think about it, co-opt other minds if you want to. But he didn't. He sat on everything and he ran everything.
And our philosophy didn't tap the brains of the people there, as it should have.
Yeah.
Now, this is very radical criticism.
Look,
But it's because Ray, it's his nature.
yes.
And you can't expect him to act differently. And he did a terrific job, and I think, too, that he was tremendously pressured. Because there's so little time. It's a rush job.
Right. That's a good perspective. There is one question, it seems for now, in comparison to that, but at what time did the Interim Council become the Council of the University? Can you recall that?
I think when the students arrived. In the first... I don't recall that.
The reason I ask is because there was a planning committee that became called the Interim Council because it was anticipated they would become the governing body of the university. But in October 1971, when the legislation was passed, in September when the legislation was passed, and in very early October when royal assent was given in 71, then the council became a council of the university. But it wasn't an elected council.
No, we just
a
changed our name.
continuation.
Yes.
But at the same time, you were then legally the council. And I wondered whether at that point it wasn't really an interim council anymore. It was the council of the university.
So we were called the council.
That's what I thought. So both legalistically and in actual
We'd never been elected, of course.
No.
We weren't council in that sense.
That's where they may have been calling you an interim council until after the students came, and then there were elections for the council as...
Yes, because I resigned before they were elected.
Before the election.
I hadn't even thought about that before.
Can you remember if you regarded yourself as the interim council or the council?
Interim council.
Right.
Yes, because I understand your point. I don't think they could have called themselves council until they had an election.
Yeah. Because the legislation would have provided for elections.
Yes.
Therefore, you would have had to be interim until election time. But you still were a constituted council at that time, even though it was... That's fair. It's just one of those things.
It's a historical point.
But when you're writing, if you say the wrong thing, people are going to do it.
Yeah, I know.
But these are the silly little things that people come down on you for. It doesn't matter. It doesn't what you were doing. But if I don't get it right,
I don't quote me because I don't know. But I feel that we were called the interim council.
Sure.
Yes.
I'll check with Tessa as well, and I'll
Yes, he'll have it right.
Actually, the document varies. At times they're called meeting of the interim council, meeting of the council of the university.
And the minutes...
Yes.
Oh, dear.
However, we'll go back on this and make sure.
That's interesting. I would have thought he'd have been more meticulous.
I'll recheck. I mean, it's, because I'm looking at minutes of the council that are in academic committee meetings, that are in correspondence committee meetings, that are passed on to various different committees. But I've also got the actual minutes. Now, I'll just have to go back and check the specific official council minutes to see what they call themselves. I'm pretty sure that they vary a bit. But I'll recheck, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
What about all these committees, talking about committees, I get the impression that even people who now are at the university and served on many of these committees, there were committees for everything. Were there too many? Were they all closed?
I don't know. I was never on any of them.
Ah, I see.
So, because the discussion about student union and all student affairs was in council, not a separate committee. Oh, I was on a stupid arrangement, on a subcommittee about student housing. And it meant nothing because there was no prospect of student housing, but you just keep them occupied. I thought, well, never mind what I did.
The question of student housing was a fairly critical one.
Because there was no way for them to live out there. They were a long way and no public transport. It was a very real thing. And I was concerned because nothing seemed to be done about it. And there was a lot of waffling around about student housing, whether it should be housing or colleges.
What did the first students do? Were they boarded out? Lodging?
No, I think the games buildings were up in time, weren't they?
Games was in 1982. So the buildings weren't up.
Yes.
The buildings weren't up until well after the
I've no idea where the students were.
The reason I ask that is maybe
I know that some of them, yes, now I'm stopping to think. Some of them were rented houses down the road in Salisbury areas. There's very cheap housing around there. But they can only have been a few.
Yeah.
No, that must have been a headache.
Yes, it was. The reason I mentioned is that I came across a file the other day where there was actually the administrative and general staff were on the point of being asked to go around and knock on people's houses.
I'd heard about that.
Yes.
I wasn't there then. I think I'd already been.
Right.
But, yes.
They didn't actually have to do it because they phoned around and they must have got just enough accommodation. Because the local people...
Yes, now Tupley can tell you all about that because he was concerned with that.
Yes.
Finding that. Have you talked to him?
I will talk to him. I have spoken to him already, but I need to go back.
No, he'll know about that. Yes. The headache it was. Yes.
What was his position?
He was registrar.
Yes, but how effective was he? How much did he have to do? What was your opinion of his?
Well, I thought he was all right, but I don't know. He didn't get on very well with them. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It was all very hush-hush and he left. And then he came back and he had a minor position now.
Yeah.
But as far as I could see, he was effective. Well, after all, registrars, he was only a secretary, as it were, to do as he was told.
Yeah.
He didn't have to make any decisions or initiate any policy. He seemed to run his office effectively. He didn't ever have the stature of Sam Rayner, but then Sam would have lots more practice.
Exactly. I don't think there were too many people who had the same sort of stature as Sam Rayner.
I was very amused one year when the students' union paper came out for freshers at the beginning of the year. It was a long article on do's and don'ts of unions and so forth. And the final line was, if you ever get a letter signed, Sam Rayner, jump to it. And they dismissed everything else. Dude, forget that. Put that in the waste paper basket. I thought, yes, that's very true.
You hear from Sam too. That's fair enough too. Is he still alive?
Oh, yes.
I retired only about 3 or 4 years ago.
That's a bit more than that now. Yes, he lives in Inverpilly Road. Gandra Street, which turns off in the park there.
Yeah.
There's our Pro Bridge with his wife.
Oh, right. I'm wondering, that's one of the points that I intended to ask you. Zelman Cowan gave Ted Bray office space and allowed him to utilise some of the academics, gave him access to library resources, and was generally very helpful. And then they moved along. He had some students involved in the council who recruit. There's yourself, and there's all of this sort of thing. Now, the viewpoint and what I sort of have in my head so far is UQ was very supportive,
Really?
extremely supportive. But at the same time, now maybe that was just at the vice chancellorship level, but further
There
down,
was a lot of snorting and criticism lower down.
lower down.
My husband is one of them. I
Uh-huh.
think. He didn't
Right.
say much to me because I didn't want to listen. But, oh, they were very critical. There was much comparison with minor American universities, I remember, in one instance. It was a constant sort of chat at parties. There wasn't any great exodus from Queensland to Griffith. The staff exodus. And they were very critical about the subject. Not enough substance, not enough substance for a degree. And thank God they didn't start with women's studies or something like that at the beginning, because that would have really put the kibosh on it.
Yes. But they did bring in women's studies fairly soon after.
Oh, I know they did, but I still wonder what the heck the academic importance in women's studies.
Well,
Sociology, yes, there's an aspect of sociology, the treatment of women. Oh my God.
Well, the feminists certainly would have felt that they had a whole gamut of areas that they wanted to
Yes. I don't like feminists. I think they're failures and therefore they hit back and blame me.
Well, I think that there certainly must be an element of truth in that. But at the same time, I do think that, and I think the problem is labeling, that feminism has become, I think, associated with too many very extreme views and radical views, not to mention lesbians and all that sort of thing. But, I mean, there certainly is a case where 50% of the population, unless they were very strong-willed and very capable women, were largely disadvantaged.
Oh yes, I know that.
That's, you know.
But I don't think rushing around
Yes.
accusing men of harassment, being bloody minded all over the place is not the way to go about it.
Yes.
After all, I've never had equal treatment, I suspect.
Yes, I would say.
But it hasn't worried me unduly. I would have liked equal salary. I worked damn side harder than the men very often.
Yes.
But I don't think yelling about it and being objectionable serves any good purpose.
I mean, from the historian's perspective, there's a whole range of social history that women have been virtually ignored that can be looked at. They can be what was. I mean, this is, I think, a valid area.
Well, that's history.
Oh, that's history, yes. But I mean, I can only talk from that perspective. Really.
Yes.
And I mean, as you say, the sociologists, political scientists, I think, have a valid area of women's studies in terms of how they have those areas you mentioned, like a real assessment of women's work and value and salaries and status and perceptions and all that sort of thing.
I think one thing that they've got to settle, and then everything else should fall into place, is that women produce children. They have got to give them an opportunity to do it without affecting their career.
Yes.
And as long as that is so,
I agree wholeheartedly.
Scream and carry on.
That aspect of it comes back to the question of choice, doesn't it? I mean, that choice has to
But
be
man
given
doesn't
equal.
make that choice.
Oh, no.
You see, but a woman has to, and that's unfair.
It is. And
It's
that's
a biological function she can't help.
That's right. And in that line, I think it's very important that the choice about children and about family has to be seen as an equal choice to the choice to maintain career structures or other roles in society.
Yes.
That's where more study of the issue might bring this area home. That's what I meant by choice. But that choice is as equally. The feminist movement seems to have shifted the perceptions in many people's minds, obviously not all, to devalue that choice to some degree. And that's something I object to again.
You know, I'd hate to be a man in charge of a large office with a lot of girls in it. It must be hell. And you can't breathe because somebody will say you've winked at her or something.
Exactly.
Shut up.
I've got 3 daughters, and that's hard enough at home dealing with them without having to deal with an officer. But thank goodness they're not all at home actually these days, but however. I suppose the question, how radical do you think Griffith was at that time when you were there?
You mean a student?
Yes.
No, not really. They were never as bad as Queensland. I think that it was all too new and they were establishing themselves. And I never felt that there was that real questioning element there.
So the radicalism came in with the staff and the courses, the difference in the structures.
Yes.
How did you feel about the attempt to create a totally non-hierarchical, a linear organizational structure?
I knew it wouldn't work, so I didn't really take it seriously. Then it's not human.
And although they tried that, it very soon really developed into, I mean, Willis was a charismatic boss, but he was very much the boss.
Oh, yes. You know, I think it's one of the sad things about Australia is the tall poppies. You've got to have tall poppies in communities, especially in educational communities. I think that's one way the private schools just score over the state schools. They have characters who stay there forever and the school gets named because of that.
I think that's a good point. In the time you were there, is there any one thing that happened on council that you would say that was a watershed? That was a particular time that things moved along and changed or didn't change away?
No, I don't think so. I can't remember any. My brain's failing me. I mean, I'm very forgetful about
I wouldn't have thought so. I certainly can't often remember what I did 5 minutes ago, but it's only because I've been at all these piles and talking to people.
Yes. If there was something that stood out like that, I would remember.
Exactly. So that's
and I don't.
That's absolutely fine because that answers the question.
It's a pretty even course, as far as I remember.
Right. What would say again, looking back now, which is
no, I did remember the academic dress business, but I remember feeling then, well, we're really getting down to things now. We're getting to the end of the road, as it were. Just thinking about graduation. It was just a thought that passed through my mind at the time.
Yeah. No, that's fine. What would you say has been, looking back on it, and again, I realise that you've been away from the operation of it, but still, what would you say was the greatest success that Griffith has had, and what's been its greatest failure, if you haven't already mentioned it?
Well, I think its great success is that it's one acceptance from the other universities. This is a more traditional element. Because, you know, we did feel at the beginning, I don't know about the others, but I think they did feel it. We were breaking new ground and we weren't accepted. Everybody was sort of looking with critical eyes at the committee.
When would you say they began to be accepted?
Oh, not till after the first graduate. Only in recent years.
In other words, when the graduates got into the workforce and moved along.
Yes. One of the things that I found trying these days, and I criticise Queensland for the same thing, is they advertise themselves. We're the best. We can test. This wasn't necessary before.
Sure.
Good wine needs no bush, sort of thing. And I don't think it does the university any good. I asked about this, and they say we've got to tell students how good we are and what they can do and so forth. But I don't think it's bad anymore.
Yes, I do understand what you're saying, but I think probably one of the things has been Dawkins' plan to come into centralized control has also deliberately set up a competitive environment. And you just can't get funding from this central control body.
Unless you can throw out your test and say, I can't talk.
Exactly.
Oh. Well, perhaps that should be a private thing with Dawkins and the University Administration. I don't know. But I really found, I read those, and Brown is just as bad as Queensland, saying how many cost the research funds and so forth. I don't know.
To get the funding, they have to get those little backsides on the seats in the university, and to get them, they have to attract them.
Exactly.
And it all really comes back to Dawkins and central control and setting up a competitive institution, and the collapse of that binary system. They really do.
I think the biggest tragedy in education is combining technical institutes with universities.
Yeah.
I think that's tragic because it has done no good to either. The technical side is a very specialist side.
And research is the only thing.
And I think that's the pity.
You were mentioning virtually that in the early days you were a bit critical, probably justifiably so, of change and being alternative just for the sake of being different. Did we get back to some of the things that you thought? What one or two or three things do you think that they did right, that they did need to change? I mean, you've already mentioned that the collegiate system could have been taken forward, but what was the one or two things that you say, yes, this needed to be changed in the traditional university?
Yes, but I don't know how Griffith has handled it, because it was something we felt needed to be changed. This question of staff appointment and tenure.
Right. Yeah.
I think we all felt that man should not automatically get tenure for life.
And you're not sure how Griffith has handled that.
I know there have been some moves about it, but I'm not sure. I have a feeling that a man gets a 5-year appointment and has to reapply for a year, but I'm not sure.
Yes, I think most of the initial appointments are either 2 years or 5 years.
Yes, there is a limited period. But even then, if a man is reappointed, is it on a 10-year basis or not?
Not always.
Because I'm thinking of Queensland and other places I've heard of, where once a chap gets his professorship, or he's there for the rest of his life, he can go out and farm in the bush if he wants. Never turns up.
I think that once people do get tenure, there's very little control over what they do once that happens.
Yes,
it has now become very, very difficult, much more difficult anyway than it used to be. You
get tenure.
To get tenure. Very, very difficult.
Well, that's right.
And I think there are also criteria set up between the university administration and the various staff associations that are developing codes of conduct and criteria when tenure, about behaviour for tenure staff. At the moment, the University of Queensland, I think, has been going through for a little time a process of trying to eliminate those staff from whatever level.
Deadwood.
Deadwood. I can think of a number of difficult decisions that have had to be made. But I think it is a process that will take time.
Yes, nobody, you can't write for it, but I know Griffith, from the beginning, we discussed this at one council meeting, this question of tenure. And what solution they found, I don't know.
I'll take that point up because it is one that hasn't been mentioned before. And that would have been part maybe of a threat felt by the staff at places like UQ in the middle levels.
Yes.
Now that's fine. And the students, you said, what about, how did you see the community at that time, given the fact that Queensland is a pretty conservative sort of a community at best time, and it was fairly new to be teaching Marxism and those sort of alternative political systems in the university. I mean, Ted Ray mentioned the Supreme Court judge who's complaining about they were training young communists out there and all that sort of thing. But just how much do you think the community...
But surely students of history in Queensland studied Marx?
They did indeed, yes.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
But this is the perception, I think, that seems to have been more. I mean, why would a Supreme Court judge go to Ted Ray and say, you're training young communists out there because you're teaching them Marxism? What are you teaching them? Didn't he know that this is, see what I mean? That
yes, I'm so surprised, I can't believe it.
Yes. So that was my reaction too, but it certainly...
Well, of course, if you want to take this further, it's quite possible that somebody goes into the classics department at the university and says, my God, they're producing pornography here. Look at these books.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't have to look outside for pornography. It's all in the library and things of the university.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, the analogy is perfectly sound. But yes, maybe this is a comment about the state of Queensland conservatism at that time.
It might be. It also might be, of course, that the lecturers at Griffith were sort of patting themselves on the back and saying, I gave a lecture on communism today or something. That we're different. We're courageous. It's very possible, but I don't know.
Also, it's been mentioned to me that perhaps people were concerned about these people secretly out in the middle of the bush. We can't see them. We don't know what they're doing. They're up dead of revolution.
Bomb making.
Although,
no, I don't know.
Conversely, Pat Nowes yesterday told me what I thought was a quite delightful
So it's not because there's anything secret, but it's